I put out this collection of poems in October of 2022, 23. And it is basically a snapshot of what was going on with me from 2020 to 2022. And so I'm going to do them in a sort of thematic way instead of the chronological like it's written in the book. So I have two that are set in summer. This one's called A Summer Together. The evening settles around us, soft blue hues of water and sand, putting knots in our hair, an oxymoronic, refreshing sea salt on our tongues. I run with you down slightly slippery wooden stairs, just the two of us. A blue-green pool untouched sits by our right, a chipped ping-pong table between us. You laugh that you know the rules better than me, even though neither of us actually know how to play. The ball bounces into the sand and into the sand and into the sand, but we don't stop. We're all just fresh smiles, missing teeth, and sung names. We shriek a laugh when we hear the distant snort of a little pug. Running up the stairs, we kneel face to face with the funniest creature in the world, or so we thought. We were younger then, holding hands at the edge of an island at the edge of the world. We were untouched, unburdened, unstoppable. The world could have fallen apart around us. We wouldn't have cared because we had each other. We're older now, and the sands that textured our hair has been washed away by a decade. By hurricanes, thunderstorms, time. We will never go back to the same place again. We're all tired eyes, calloused fingers, endless tasks. You still hold my hand, you still point out silly dogs that make me laugh, and you still insist that you know game rules better than me. But sometimes, as I watch the world actually crumble around me, I wish it was just you, me, and a flat-faced dog that made us laugh by just breathing, holding hands at the end of the world. This one's called Summer Vacation. I feel the weight of summer on my chest. I crave the winter. The bite of the cold, comforting press of the coat, the way the day ends right when you get home and you don't feel obligated to make something of the day. The summer sits outside, the sunlight seemingly endless, the heat and wet of the air constantly inescapable, the fake manufactured joy of summer vacations and holidays, crawls down my throat and makes a swamp of my lungs. The summer offers no solace, no excuse. The sun burns my skin. The cool, calm air mocks me with possibility. I don't want to go outside. I don't want to go anywhere. I want the winter to wrap around me. I want the air to be shockingly sharp, biting me awake when I leave my house. Instead, I wake up with the sun already halfway through the sky. I wake up to countdowns to the end of something I couldn't wait to leave. My depression weaves itself into the days of my birth month, the irony not lost on my skin. I'm exhausted. And these are ones that I have labeled as body. Either about the body or featuring body. Motifs, they're fun. You're going there on accident. Excuse me. This one is called A Cage. There are ghosts in my house. They're not the shadows of those gone, but the haunted memory of what could be. I sit cross-legged between green walls that used to be white, the ghost full of the spots in my lungs reserved for air. But I welcome them. They hum warm and human, make my hands shake, mouth mumble. They make me someone else. I smile, teeth offset and too sharp. I pull at my cheeks, skin splitting under the tension of a lie. There are ghosts in my house. They make a home in my ribcage, and I'm the only one that can hear their rattling speech. This one's called My Own Ghost. I'm a ghost haunting my own house. I send shivers through my own spine, hands shaking softly as the world becomes too much. I drift from day to day, waiting for sunset, waiting for sunrise, waiting for rain, waiting for warmth. I watch the people around me continue. They smile, plans made and goals met. They love me, knowing I'm there, but I don't move, I don't leave. I'll always be here, and I always will. This one is called Roadside. I'm a car crash. I'm all-encompassing. My violence, my destruction, echoes across the asphalt in a chorus of glass metal ground bone. I'm a car crash. I am loud. I am sirens and squealing brakes. I am loss of control, lack of control, recklessness, incorrect. I'm a car crash. I'm unnatural. I am as I should always be. I'm moving too fast, too slow. My violence, my life, is spread open, unnamed across concrete that never wanted me in the first place. I am a car crash. My blood stains the road to be washed out by next month, next week, tomorrow morning. My destruction makes headlines, but not for me, for the inconveniences, time lost, and waiting caused. I am sirens heard, phone dialed, sigh of relief. I am sirens ignored, phone untouched, never noticed. This one is called Displeasure. I think my body takes displeasure in my existence. It loathes me as much as I loathe it. It burns me from the inside out, blood breaking, bones boiling, heads cracked against concrete and flesh scraped along rocks. We exist in a détente, an appeasement, a stalemate. Who wins? When it ends, will it be a coup or a surrender? And this one's called Flies. There are flies in my apartment. I don't know where they came from. I think it's because of me. I think I'm rotting, sitting in place, flesh becoming useless. I think I'm rotting. I think I brought the flies here. I think they crawled out of my teeth from healed scars. I put out a trap. It didn't work. I exhale. It doesn't work. This one's called Confirmation Bias. Things have not gone wrong yet. Preventable disaster. The house is still standing because I triple checked the stove. The apartment is still empty because I lock, unlock, lock, unlock, lock, unlock. Because if I don't, what if it happens? Any of it, at any time, anywhere. Thinking it happens, thinking it happens, it happens, it happens, it happens, it happens. No proof of an outcome, premeditated crisis control. Fix, twitch, check again. But what if? It won't, but it could. It has, not to you, but it could. It won't, but it could. It could, it will, it can, it will, it can. And then this one is called Different. I tell you, a person I trust, with my back to your chest and my shoulders to the unforgiving plywood of a prop bed. I tell you the first time spoken out loud. You don't speak, and my lungs fill up with the ink of your silence. Because I know you never trusted me after that, because I'm too different. I see notifications light up my screen. News alerts, text messages. My hands sit numb in my lap. June 12th, 2016. Morning. Ice fills my veins, making me feel as inhuman as the world sees me. I step out the door and make eye contact with you at the top of the stairs. We don't speak, but fear, pain, loss, fear bubble up behind my eyes until you're hugging me and I'm sobbing. I know that, despite your pride, you are also scared. You send your daughter into a world where her differences make her unsafe. You come down the stairs of the bar behind us. Glitter still sticks to our skin. I feel vodka sliding through my veins, making it easier to laugh and harder to worry. You step out onto the street 6 feet away from me. You call me a dyke. And other unpleasant words that don't hit me as hard. My fun turns to terror and only one girl moves to protect me. Putting her vulnerable body in front of mine, but we move on. I get into the Uber and no one mentions it again. Terror sits in my throat while you don't remember putting it there. 3 girls sit in front of me. Girls I've known for years, decades. They are radiant, perfect, their smiles easy, welcoming. Glasses of soda and white wine sit in their hands. Party lights bounce off their faces, highlighting lips I want to kiss. Lips that tell me about boyfriends and soon-to-be fiancés. Wine sits in my mouth, in my fingertips, and my cheeks. I'll never be you, I'll never have you. You haunt me by being so cruelly and excessively kind. You laugh as you come towards me, the summer air making us forget the rest of the world. You kiss him, giggling as drunk friends do when they do something scandalous, but with no real consequence. You come up to me wanting to do the same. I give in, too cheap vodka and summer wine making my tongue heavy. You kiss me, pouring in my mouth from the half second. We move on, laughing. The fun fades when I see myself giving away something I can never have back. You are my first kiss, and you won't remember. But I still know the shade of blue, the water reflected on your skin when you walked away. You look at me, eyes bright and matching the water we walk next to. Feel your presence next to me, humming a song that changed my life. You laugh at my jokes, making me smile. You hold my hand, making the sunset seem only second best. You tell me you love me. You sing songs for me. Come to shows with me, singing until our voices crack and telling the same inside joke years later. I feel a confession rising in me every time I breathe your air. We will never write songs about me the way you dedicate those notes to him.
More claps for Shelby.
Okay. Can you get me contact solution? Weed-infused contact solution?
I will get you weed-infused contact solution.
Delicious.
We can get contact solution.
Okay.
Stuff after
You're just very weed-enthused right now.
and it should be 15 minutes.
Okay. I'm vibing.
If anything happens, give me a call.
I'm going to throw it out the window.
Thank you.
She was like,
Video live.
do you want to do like a mark?
We should be good. Again, because of my obsession, I'm like syncing the audio won't be much of a problem.
Okay.
Maybe that is a thing we should start to implement, but
Marking?
also, yeah, I don't know. I haven't needed it yet.
It's only been one.
Yeah, I also haven't needed an intro yet. So
Come up with an intro.
you would think, right?
Yeah.
But the way that we're gonna edit this video, it's like we're gonna use all of
Like
the
in
B-roll that
pieces?
we just got. Yeah,
Okay,
and
yeah.
the intro will never make sense.
It's going to be like that, like when they do like indie recordings and like at the end it's like, haha, was that good?
Exactly.
That type of shit.
Yes, 100%. So you have 2 bachelor's degrees. Neither of them are an English degree and a book out.
Yes.
How did that happen?
Well, I went to college and it was 2016 when I started going to college. And I
Yes.
was like, wow, this Bernie Sanders guy, he's got a lot of cool stuff going on.
Yeah.
I have so much hope for the future and for politics and the government. I want to do that. So I went and I went to UAlbany and I talked to one of the professors there and I was like, I'm thinking in minoring in history because I think it's really cool. And he's like, just do the major. And I was like, okay. And so I did.
Yep.
And so now, because I've always loved history, and now I have 2 degrees and I graduated in 3 years because I was insane and did AP classes.
Yeah.
So I don't have an English degree and I don't know if I should have gotten an English degree because I wrote my poetry book completely just streamlined straight out of my brain. And that's why it's absolutely insane. It's just straight from my brain.
It's completely unfiltered by like the world of literature.
Yes. I've read,
Yeah.
I mean, like, obviously I've got like a book collection. I've read like books, but haven't read a lot of like the classics. I never read like
Okay.
Great Gatsby and all that
Yeah.
jazz.
So this is where I'll inject myself a
Yes.
little bit. Fuck the classics. Fuck them. So fuck them all. Fuck every single one.
I did read Frankenstein. That was the only classic I've read.
I see. Frankenstein is okay.
Mm-hmm.
Still, fuck Frankenstein. Right. This is why, like, at poetry night, I talked about loving the contemporaneity of your work.
Yes.
I think part of what makes contemporaneous lit work is like a disrespect for the form, which is very important because classic literature fucking sucks.
Yes.
All of it sucks. Not a single bit of it is good. And I'm saying this as a person not only with an English degree, but like I'm continuing to pursue an English degree, right? But my degree is in telling people that rappers are better than Walt Whitman because they all are. Every rapper is, right?
Well,
And so part of what's attracted me to your work is the fact that so much poetry is so boring. And that's not what you do. And I love that. When we had Anna on, Anna talked about like she described work that she loves and a little bit her own work as like unhinged woman writing,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
I don't think I would like put you in that category, but almost like a like stylistic relation, right?
Okay, yeah.
It occurs to me that you do a lot of your writing, as you've said, like very stream of conscious. Tell me how wrong I am about your writing process. Your writing process is you're ruminating on something, you think of something poetic, you start turning it into a poem, and then at some point that is a single session, like start to finish, creating a poem. Is that about right?
Yeah, usually that's why they're not super long, is because I usually get like, I will think of a specific line in my head, a certain set of words, and then I'll just be like, I want to do the rest of that and write it down. And that's why some of them are like 3 or 4 sentences, because that's all I wanted to say. There are very few that I will be like, find it really hard to be given a prompt, even a vague one, like the new moon one. It took me like 3 tries to get anything, and it's really hard. And so a lot of my poems are these weird like 1:30 a.m. just whatever nonsense comes out of my brain, and that's why like I also think that there tends to be patterns that I didn't do on purpose, is because it just things that happened to be in my brain at the time. And so that's kind of why I decided to put the book chronologically instead of like thematically, because I wanted it to be such a clear snapshot of what the fuck was happening in my head from 2020 to 2022, because it was just, I was losing it. And so it's very easy to be like, oh, I know what was happening this day, because all these things all sound the same.
Yes. Do you think that chronology then becomes a theme of what you're doing?
I think so. I think it definitely adds weight to it, and that's kind of why I decided to name it like 2 years under my teeth, is because like it's very much like a vision of what kind of the impact that COVID had like on me and moving, and you know, dealing with increased like OCD and that kind of thing. And it becomes like a timeline for me that then becomes like, these are the winter poems and the summer ones, and this is about this thing. So it definitely put itself in its own categorized way. And there are some that are back to back that I didn't realize when I wrote them that are almost exactly the same. And I was like, oh, I was going through a lot during that time.
So the book stops in 2022, right? It is 2024, which I can't help but notice is a little bit after 2022.
Is it?
It is. Have you continued writing since finishing the book?
Yeah, I just have like my notes app, and I have like a notebook and stuff. And because I don't write super like intentionally, I'll have like random amounts of them, but I just write when it comes to mind. So I have more, and the reason I stopped in 22 is because I wanted to give myself like a hard end, because if I kept being like, well, I want to do like 2022 and also, you know, like 23 and whatever, I was never gonna finish it. And so because I had no like specific intent for it, I didn't have a theme to cut off. I wanted to have a date. And so like 22, I was like, okay, let's finish that. So 23, I have some stuff, and I read some stuff at the poetry night, and I do write fairly often, more so in the winter than in the summer. But yeah, I definitely have kept writing, and if I put out another collection soonish, it would probably be at the beginning of 25.
Keep the 2-year cycle.
Even like if it ends up themed, just kind of give myself a cutoff. Because I was kind of hesitant to put out like a poetry collection, because it is like so personal. And so by giving myself a cutoff, I kind of forced myself to be like, well, it's done. You can't add anything to it. You already decided that it's done, so just fucking do it. So that was really kind of part of why it's cut off the way it is that I was like, I had to stop giving myself excuses, because like I had the title, I had it in order, I had everything together, and I took the photo on the cover. It's actually outside of my old apartment, probably a month before I like put it to print. And a friend of mine, Catherine O'Brien online, she edited it for me and added the art and things, and had the great idea of putting the little quote on the back that summed it up.
Very cool.
And so I originally was like, I will just make digital copies and just, it'll be free, it'll be whatever. It'll only be like my friends and stuff. And then I started to get people that like, you know, when you like make something and your friends and family who you feel like are obligated to be like, it's great, say whatever, and you're like, okay, but really, it started to go outside of people who basically owed me positive reaction.
Yeah.
And people were like actually responding to it. And like Cafe Euphoria wanted to sell it for one of their like maker spaces. And then Paper Moon was interested in it. And Gumroad, which is basically like Etsy for this media kind of thing, they put it as one of their staff picks.
Hell yeah.
And so like I was like, oh shit, this isn't like, you know, this isn't just me being like, these are the things I wrote, and my friends and family like them. Like people I didn't know started to like it. And I was like, oh, that means that it's actually good, which was like hard to cope with because I have so many poems about like that kind of imposter syndrome. And, you know, a lot of my family is really talented and musical and whatever. And I always felt like we were saying before, because poetry doesn't have like the technical and the equipment and stuff, I was like, but it's not hard to do.
Yeah.
It comes to my brain and I write it down, and it's like that people don't do that.
Do you find that the confirmation of being good has like changed how you're writing going forward?
Oh yeah. And it also changed how I read too, like aloud and stuff, because I would always be like, and here's a poem that I have, and now like I'm able to put like basically act them out and stuff, and I definitely think that's helped with it. And I feel like I write with purpose more. And because I started consuming more poetry, mostly local and like small poets and stuff and contemporary, I definitely like the way that certain things feel when the flow of things. And so I think I definitely have a confidence and stuff, and I don't feel as like worried about like, if I do this thing, is somebody gonna like it? What are they gonna do? Like, am I posting it into the ether and nothing comes back? And like, as much as I want to be like, you write poetry for the art and not for the validation, that's bullshit. Everybody does everything for validation. We're humans. Yeah. And so like getting that validation back was really helpful, because then I kind of was like, oh, I can do this. And, you know, moving to Troy also helped. And because I'm from Long Island originally, and we're so shadowed by New York City that you have to be like the next big thing to have anybody recognize anything, or you have to be like some Nepo baby with millions of dollars. And, you know, the people like Cafe Euphoria and at Paper Moon were like, this is cool, you're local, we want to showcase that. And that was really helpful, is because I didn't have to make it my career. Like I do like government relations stuff for a healthcare organization. Like, I can do this on the side and be proud of it, and I don't have to put every single ounce of everything. And then it feels more, not iconic, that's not the word that I want. What is the word that organic? Because I don't have to pump it out for money. Like, I just do what I want to when I want to, and I'm able to give the book out for free online and in person, and or whatever price people want. And so it just is, it's really nice. And I have a lot of friends online, so I'm able to say that I'm an international selling poet in 4 continents, which is fun. Australia, Europe, Asia, and the US.
I love putting out music and then seeing what the Spotify algorithm does. Like, Rue, I don't know if you know this, but like we have like 3 streams right now in New Zealand. And there was a point where Mike Lanny, a friend of mine and a local rapper, was at one point like the number 8 most streamed rapper in Austria.
Okay.
Yeah, Austrian legend Mike Lanny.
That is sick.
Big shout out to him. I love claiming that like internationality.
Yeah.
And I do love, I like the assessment that Long Island is like living in the shadow of the city.
Oh yeah.
I think the capital region gets to live just outside the shadow of the city, where like we are distant enough. This area felt infected to me before COVID, like right before COVID, with a lot of people who were like trying to make it. Myself not entirely not included, right? Like, I've always been pretty open about, I want as much as I can get.
So I say everybody wants attention.
Yeah. but very much the core of this, like, of this area is the hardcore scene and the indie scene, where like you will see somebody moshing and fist fighting, and then you'll see them like directing traffic the next morning.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's just part of everything. And yeah, and definitely on Long Island too, because of just Long Island is so suburban that you like, we talk now like, oh my God, it's 25 minutes to everywhere. You know,
Yeah.
like here you
Yeah.
can just get to
Yeah.
Albany, just connected to Niskeen, like so easy. And to get, you know, to fucking Patchogue, it was like 40 minutes on a Friday night. And then like I said, you have to be some sort of like up and coming, whatever,
yeah,
you know, milk toast poet
Yeah.
kind of thing. And so yeah, I definitely think that getting out, like I moved up here in 2021, and I put out the collection in October of last year, and I definitely feel like people are more interested in like what other people are doing, and like less about like what is the most popular thing, what is the most like, what thing is going to get me like the most likes or whatever. And you know, it's not to say that there isn't good original stuff on Long Island. It's just it's such a difficult ecosystem because there is so much weight in New York City that it's just impossible.
Even New York City itself, I think, becomes an attractor for people who are there trying to start something. You know, like very hard to live in general. But speaking of trying, when did you start writing?
Well, I started writing like when I was like a kid, and I would kind of write like just, you know, like everybody does when they're a kid, just completely like ridiculous, like basically like fan fiction of the fucking Percy Jackson books kind of thing, like not serious or whatever. But I would write, and it was really good because like while my OCD like expanded during COVID, it still existed throughout my life, and so it was really nice to be able to kind of get rid of like intrusive thoughts in a written way. And I didn't know what that was at the time, but it helped. So I wrote a lot, like just, you know, nonsense, like very Mary Sue stuff. But I stopped writing in like mid to late high school, and then all through college, because I got so sucked into college, and I didn't do anything but college, and I didn't read any books for fun, and I didn't write anything for fun. I would be writing, you know, kicking out these, you know, essays that were like A+ graded essays, but they were so
draining.
And they were just so academic. And they like, even if there was something I wanted to research, like I'm proud of my like capstone essays and these kinds of things, but they were exhausting and they were impersonal. And so like I started writing again in 2020 because I graduated and then was kind of dumped into the void of COVID. And so I was like, didn't have a job yet, and I was like, what am I doing? Like, Jesus Christ. Like I, you know, went from reading like back-to-back books about like the fucking Holocaust and the AIDS crisis and like all the other fun things that comes with a history major to just nothing. And, you know, thousands of people were dying a day, and I just had nowhere to go, and my graduation was canceled. Like I was losing it. And I was like, well, got to put it somewhere. So I just started writing, and you know, they were originally just notes app nonsense, just things to think about. And then I was like, this is fun, this is a good way to do this, and I started doing it. And it's actually really funny because it sounds so nerdy and emo. I got back into writing at the same time I got back into My Chemical Romance.
As one does.
Which is like so obvious. You're like, oh yeah, okay. And so like it very much was when I went from like being like, I'm gonna listen to, you know, when I was in college, I listened to Taylor Swift's Reputation every day. And I was like, this is great, but it was so sanitized. And then I went back to my like emo and hardcore roots, and I was like, oh, I could be a freak again. And so that helped a lot too, and kind of realizing that like it's okay to say weird shit, and it's okay to be off-putting, and like I was always so worried about like, oh my God, what if somebody who cares about me reads this poem about like going crazy? And it's like, then they know you better. Mm-hmm. And then you get it out and it's fine, and they know you. And if they're so like put off by it, they're not going to be supportive anyway. Like if they're so bothered by it, then that's its own problem. Yeah. And so I kind of was like, all right, let me go back to being a bit of a weirdo. And it just has helped so much, because now I'm like, I like very much that cliche of like, you know, wearing flowers and shit in my hair and then listening to like the loudest hardcore I possibly can in my headphones, because I'm like, this is good. This is good.
That's what you have to do.
Yeah, it's good. It's regulating.
I just like in a like mirror, I started writing poetry specifically when I was 14, and I stopped when I was 16 because I started rapping. And from 16 to 22, I listened almost strictly to rap and hip hop, like to the point where if I heard a guitar on a song, I would probably just skip it, right? Like I was like that fixative and obsessive. And then I started getting back into poetry because I was an English major.
Yes.
And they had me start writing poems, and I was like, this shit is easy, because I've been writing rap songs this whole time.
Yes, yeah.
And rap songs are way harder. They're way harder.
You gotta rhyme, you gotta have a certain pace to it. No.
But so then I like was trying to strip away all of that technique, and I was like, what do I do? And I got like so back into emo and hardcore so quick. I had to text people I went to high school with and be like, hey, like you recommended me like Cigarette Daydreams like 10 years ago, and I told you to fuck off, and I'm sorry about that. That song is very good.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was like, that song is really good. The Main is dope. I like The Main.
Yeah, I saw The Main last year. They're really good.
I'm supposed to go see them in September. And they're number one on my list of Taxi by The Main is like the only song I wish I wrote. I get so pissed because I write mostly like scumbag romance, and I'm like, how did like these motherfuckers did it in a way I will never.
Yeah, I would say one of the only songs I wish that I wrote is well, there's three of them. They're all by Thursday, and it's Turnpike Divides, Autumn Leaves Revisited, and Circuits of Fever. And because they're just crazy, both audibly and lyrically, I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Want to do that. And I got into Thursday when I started writing too. And I know what day I started getting into Thursday, so I can tell like, okay, this is pre and post fucking when I started going crazy. And I actually, all my copies aren't over there. Jeff Rickley from Thursday put out a book.
Yeah.
A year ago. And I became obsessed with it. And it's written in this really, it's about like an acid trip that he went on to kind of like get off of heroin. And it's written in this just like dizzying, beautiful, but like raw way of just like not pulling any punches while still being like so poetic. Yeah. And I was like, shit, that's great. I want to do more of that. And so like I think definitely has like was also part of the courage of just like putting out a book. Is I was like, well, you gotta write about some of the worst shit that's ever happened to you. Yeah. And it's being this really nice, beautiful, poetic thing. And and I was like, I could do that. That'll be great. And so it's definitely an influence of just kind of being like, I actually talked to him one time and I was like so worried about it. I was like, what do you do when you write about things that are taboo and that are like scary? And he was like, well, I think that taboo is there to be broken. And that has been like bouncing around in my skull for the last like year and a half. And I was like, damn, you're right. I'm gonna do that.
I got booed out of a writing workshop once because we were all supposed to give prompts, right? And everyone was giving like the most generic shit, like, oh, like write about something that's been on your mind lately. And the prompt I handed everyone was, what's the worst thing you've ever done? Yeah. Be honest.
I love that.
Yeah. And turns out a lot of people did not love that. But I was like, that's what the point of writing is.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're supposed to write about shame.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is writing about shame is so hard.
It's so fucking hard.
It is the worst.
Yeah.
Because you're like, don't look at it. Don't
there was a
read
point,
about it.
I wrote this one like memoir essay, which is like 30 pages long. It took me like 3 weeks. And over those 3 weeks, I would like start writing, give myself an anxiety attack, and like have to put it down and
Oh
pick
my
it
God.
back up later.
Yeah, that's part of the reason I couldn't be an English major. I'm like, don't tell me what to do.
So, but no one was actually forcing me to do that. Is the thing. That was all entirely voluntary. I took a workshop that was what they said was you have to write nonfiction. And I think that to write nonfiction, you have to be true,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
I have an obsession with like what is actually true.
Yeah.
Right. I think you will enjoy this story very much because that essay is largely about an ex-girlfriend of mine.
Okay.
It includes a sentence that I hold to be true, which is, at the time at least, I am a writer and she was a Starbucks barista. And therefore, it is fucked up of me to write anything about that relationship because when I tell the story, people clap for me. And when she tells the story, her coworkers go, oh, yeah. Right?
Man.
Which is a thing I put in that essay. And in the entire workshop was like, you're an asshole. And I'm like, I'm aware.
But that's true. That's like the definition of like he said, she said, of like if you can say something nicer than somebody else, you win.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. If you walk away from me writing about this like very toxic relationship I was in going, he's a stand-up guy. I'm the worst.
He fucked up.
Yeah.
Completely fucked it up.
That's not what you're supposed to take away.
No. And that's what I think, like, not to be like such a fucking boomer about this, but that's something that's driving me crazy about fucking Gen Z is I'm like, you need to realize that sometimes protagonists are bad people.
Yeah.
And that they're allowed to be bad people. And they should be bad people because people make mistakes and no one is perfect. And if someone is perfect, there's something wrong with that. And so if you can take like a character that is not perfect and you can say like they have flaws because of X, Y, and Z reason, then you're able to look at real life people and be like, oh, it's okay that this person's a bit of a freak because at the end of the day, they are trying to be a good person kind of thing.
I'll just get the poetry right here.
Yeah, it's me. It's the blood flowing right out my nose. All right. Now are the ones on my phone. Because those are the ones that are in the book, and now these ones are on my phone. I don't know why I said that.
Buy Shelby's phone.
Please give me $1,500 just to have. Okay.
You're gonna get the phone.
I deserve it.
You can lease the phone until you like finish all the poems on it.
Yeah.
Then you gotta give it back.
That was okay. Poets and poems. This is actually the poem that I posted this on my Instagram story, and I remember my family was like, "Who wrote that? Like, where'd that come from?" And I was like, "I did. It was me." And they're like, "You need to do something more permanent with that." And I was like, "Okay, now we're here." So it's called Poets and Poems. I am a poet of other people's words, other people's influences. I do not exist in a world where I can create something wholly new. I have been before, I have said before. I bought 5 books today, full of words already written. I read 200 pages of poems in one sitting. The sweet, sour ink of a new book melts in my mouth. I'm going to have this aftertaste of someone else's voice in my mouth until the letters decide to release me. This one is called About You, and it is about my Nana. Think about you whenever I see the birds. I wonder what you would say as my life has become brown house sparrows and persistent starlings. I don't have a bird feeder in this house. Well, I did, but it fell last fall and I haven't gotten it back. In the morning I hear a consistent woodpecker. Spring is back, and so is the jackhammer beak. I log it, but I remember to. I want to tell you, show you, I have my very own woodpecker. I always thought they were rare and uncommon delight. This free app tells me otherwise. I miss you, your cardinals and goldfinches, your orioles and hummingbirds. I know they're still there, I just have to invite them, but I don't. I don't see the same birds anymore. People just knocking shit over. That'll be part of it. Now it says performance art. I like to think about the permanence of things. Things you have no choice but to leave behind. The room I grew up in. Will someone know the pieces of me? Where I cried, where I pressed pins into the wall? I will continue in the pages of books, lines highlighted, notes written. And I hope, one day, someone I never knew will see these marks, proof of my existence, and I will be remembered for only my passive contributions. This one is called Guts, and it goes in the body category. I've been holding my guts lately. It doesn't hurt, but it's warm and red and lime. They spool in my hands, drape under my elbows. The flesh is sticky where I lift my hand. It's impractical standing here with my organs on a plate, but I don't move. Instead, I stand there, my arms in front of me holding a weight I can feel. My eyelid daydreams have been getting more vivid yet farther away. It's not a nightmare. I'm calm, but I still fall asleep with blood on my hands. Extending seemingly forever under my feet. The sunrise has always been a part of the world I knew for decades. Now, a lifetime and an experience away, I can still taste the metal tang of a sudden frost and feel the cold touch of a freshly settled dew under my feet. This one's called As Is, and it's about having to tell somebody no when they're asking for something that you agree with. I hate being the person who says no. It looks in the face of people asking, can we do this, about something great, something that would potentially change lives. And I say no. I say no, there's not enough money, not enough time, enough people who care. No, I can't help you or the dozens of others asking, because there isn't enough money. The money has been claimed already. It's going to the east where the money will be used to slaughter children not old enough to speak from families as old as God itself. It's going next door where it will keep people in or out of cages, dooming them to a cycle which they were dragged into. It's going south, where the companies that produce the drugs that cause the epidemic are also selling the ones that cure it. It's going across the street, where it will fill the tools of violence, where the red and blue lights provide a flickering backdrop of a life gone too soon. It's going in circles where people with more money than God itself hand it back and forth, feeding each other's wealth while making a profit in the blood of others. But there's no money for you who cares about your neighbors and only wishes to see them healthy, you who spends the money you do not have, that is not reserved for you, on those who have even less, you who sends that money overseas so that a family may make their bread, only for the flour to run thick and red from the violence that the rest of the money is reserved for. Please know I don't want to tell you no, that I share your dreams and I wish to change the world as it is, but there isn't enough money. I have a funny one if you want to lift up the mood. It's much shorter than the joke.
Is it funnier than that?
Well, yes, because it's like 30 seconds. It's called Driving. I read it last time.
I can't catch a break.
It says, I hate your It says, I hate your fucking LED headlights. Oh my God. What the fuck are you trying to see? We do not live in rural Maine. This is a goddamn city. You don't need that much headlights. Christ, I looked in the rearview mirror and now I'm fucking blind. This is counterproductive. I want to brake check you so bad. Fuck that guy! The problem was I wrote that and then I rear-ended somebody else. And their car survived and mine did not. So I had a car, it was called a Kia Rio, and it was about yay big. Then it was about a ladybug size of a car. It was just less than 5 feet tall. I drove it to the back of an F-150. We were only going like 15 miles an hour, but it was enough that I like shoved it underneath it. and like crushed the radiator and everything. So the car like was overheating, and I was like trying not to freak out, so I'm just laughing. And the state trooper's there, and I was like, my car is smoking. Can I drive it home? And the state trooper was like, yeah, you can drive it home. And I was like, well, you're the fucking authority, I guess. And so I tried to drive it home, and I think we made it about 5 minutes before it like literally started smoking again. And I was like, well, I knew not to trust the police, so I don't know why. I don't know why. I was like, yeah, I'll drive this fucking smoking car that I just drove into the back of an F-150 and it'll be fine. The F-150 is perfectly fine. Yeah. There's like some paint on the back of the trailer hitch in my car, so in the front. I still don't have a car. That was April. And I still don't have a car for other reasons. All right. This one I wrote for and about my dad. That's him.
Whoa.
The man behind the window. It's my father. I wonder what my father sees when he looks at me. He sees a duplication of himself. When I say, look at me, am I not the man in front of you? I wear this mirror with pride. I know that when I look at my father, it's a future I can rely on to raise more children as close to me as I am to him. And then this one is basically like a part. I tend to write a lot of the same poems about the same thing and not realize. So this one's called Copy. Think I'm a carbon copy of you. Think I have been for a long time. We look the same, laugh the same. We share the same interests. The same scientific scrutiny on what piques our interest. I make the same jokes as you. I laugh at the same things you would find funny. My favorite movies are the ones you showed me and the ones we still share. I think I am a carbon copy of you, and I think that changes me in ways unexpected. Because I love you as you love me. So I'm deserving and capable of love, because you showed me both how to give it and how to receive it. This one's called Opposites. I exist in contradictions, nature versus nurture, what I've done and what's been done to me, things earned, things developed. I was not always like this, yet I've never been anyone else. Opposites attract, so I think the only things keeping me moving are the magnets in my ribcage. I'm looking for a specific one. I can't find it. There it is. It's called Cotton. Another body poem. A lot of body poems. My teeth have turned to cotton. No, replaced. My mouth is full of blood, bone, cotton, flesh. I did this willingly. There was a gap in my jaw, in my bones, made from pressure, and rotting stones and bone and calcium, alive and pebble like it once. A black hole in the back of my jaw, hair splintered cracks into my flesh, rotting, infecting, seething. I've replaced these spaces where my teeth used to be with iron eyes. My teeth are sharp, my teeth are gone. I still bite down, I still remove flesh. I'm still my own built-in weapon. And then the last one, if I can find it, will be what I named the book kind of after, what it was influenced by. And this was like one of my first poems that I started when I started doing it genuinely. So this is called Teeth. And this is my last one. It's from November 2020. My teeth are sharp when I bite down on my tongue, cheek, lips. So the act of keeping silent becomes an act of drawing blood. Mm.
Can we get another round for the rare?
I mean, it's just insane.
I'm very good at consuming media without actually interacting with it, because I will just take things and be like, got it, and then move on.
Yeah.
And so, like, I got an A in that class because I just would be like, okay, cool. And then just so this is why it's political science. You take what somebody says and you just like shift the words around slightly, and then you say it back to them, and they're like, "Oh, good job, A+." That's like that. I think Emily Dickinson was a lesbian.
See, that's all I think being an English major is. But it's been made aware to me after the fact that other people were treating my major very differently than I was, because they were trying to learn about classics and stuff. And what I was trying to do was learn how to write. And
Yes.
those are two very different things.
Yes, that's also what I
Yeah.
think, when I started doing like literary analysis and media analysis again, just on my own for
Yeah.
fun because of the autism, it was very much because I just was like, Charlie Kelly, like Pepe Sylvia,
Yeah.
Pepe Sylvia, and just finding fucking connections to things. And then it's really fun to be like, write in a way that it's like, I like that, I'm gonna do that. And that's why, like, I think it's why I never really clicked with the classics, is because
Yep.
you have to spend so much time with them. And I would try, and I would be like, I can't do this. I read A Tale of Two Cities,
Yeah.
kind of. I read the words.
Yeah.
I don't fucking remember any of it.
Yeah. It's also, the classics bore me because people have already figured them out.
Yes.
Don't hand me a solved puzzle.
We did it already.
Yeah.
That was so much. So have you read Heart of Darkness?
I have
Have you seen
pretended
Apocalypse
that
Now?
I've read Heart of Darkness. I did help teach a class about how Apocalypse Now is.
Oh, it's the same.
Yeah, it
I
is.
love Heart of Darkness is one of my like classic exceptions because
Yeah.
I fucking love it. And it made me so mad when I was in high school that people didn't understand how important it was, because I was like, yeah, it's racist now, but at the time it was like a seminal piece of like anti-imperialist
Yes.
work or whatever.
Yeah.
But I went to my like AP Lit teacher and I was like, I have found the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse in this book, and she was like, I haven't heard that before. And I was like, I did it.
Yeah.
I won.
We had a kid in one of my freshman classes at UAlbany compare the narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass, which I think you should read if you're interested in nonfiction. But he compared it to the Amazon Prime series, The Underground Railroad, which he kept insisting on calling Amazon Prime series The Underground Railroad. And I watched that kid graduate with honors. And I was like, this whole degree program is cooked.
That's amazing.
This is the
incredible.
most over it's ever been for
Oh
anything.
my God.
Like, how did we let that one slide?
I one time heard a girl say the N-word, a white girl, with her full chest in the middle of class because she was comparing it to the word faggot and was saying, like, you know how black people have, like, reclaimed N-word? Everyone was like, first of all,
what the fuck
we are
you
talking
doing?
about, it was
Yeah.
like an international politics class, and we were talking about like the definition of genocide and about how like you can't really refer to the racism in America specifically towards black people as a genocide because it's so non-institutional. And then she just was like, let me say the N-word with my chest in front of like 700 people, and everyone was like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah. I had another like opposite experience where, to a class of high-level English majors, I said what I held to be a self-evident truth, which is that bitch is a slur. Like, if you just think about it for like 30 seconds, that seems obvious. And everyone was like, there's no way. And I was like, no, it 100% is. Like, it checks every box. And words are your job.
Words are your job. That is an incredible statement.
Yeah.
Words are your job.
If words are your job, it shouldn't be hard
should
for
think
you
about
to
words.
decipher words. Yeah.
I love that.
That is your
incredible.
job.
That's why like I put the word dyke in all of my poems.
As you should.
Is I'm like, look at me while I say the word dyke. I want you to look at me. And so I always put it in my poems because I want people to be uncomfortable, and that's the point of poetry, especially when it comes to things like, slurs and stuff and whatever. And I have a lot of fun with the word dyke because I've also had bad times with it. And so I instead get to, make jokes with my lesbian friends, as I'm sure other gay people do. It's like, when they're like, oh, that girl was really pretty. I'm like, what are you, a fucking dyke? What are you doing?
Yeah.
And so it's just like, I don't know. And putting it in poetry, it's also the K of it is such a solid.
It's a very good
hits.
word. Yeah.
And so when you put it somewhere in comparison, because like if you want, you could argue that bitch is a slur, but it doesn't hit the same. But like when somebody comes down the stairs of a bar and calls you a dyke in the middle of the night, you're like, whoa, that's not good. I'm gonna go home.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excuse me.
I think this is all part of why I love like the dating of your work.
Yes.
And your like obsessive need to chronologize. Because I am also quite obsessive about like getting things in the correct order and like making them all sort out, you know? I don't have a way to form that.
I love putting shit in order. Well, I also like it because I also like putting the time on things of when I wrote it, because like there are times when I wrote poems in what could best be described as like a manic moment, where they are very much just a ramble of nonsense, and they are just like, I'm losing it and I need to put this down somewhere, and if I don't, I'm going to go crazy. And then there are other times where it's very calculated, you know, it's like 2 p.m. on a nice summer afternoon. The words are going to be much more calculated, even if they are about the same thing. And so I like to kind of look back at my own stuff and be like, well, what was going on here? What was I doing? And so it's like both a form of like expression, but also a form of therapy, and kind of be like, okay, I felt that way because it was 1:30 in the morning and I was losing it, not because that's how it always is. And so that definitely helps figure things out. And I think writing about things that are gross, like I write a lot about flies and about my teeth, I'm always like, well, I was uncomfortable, so you will be too. I also wrote about my teeth because they're very easy to think about, because they're right there. They're right there, and they are so impactful. And I had to get 3 teeth removed, like, because they were impacted, and so they were doing really badly. And I remember it so well, because obviously they take your teeth and now you don't have any more teeth, and they took them from you. And I was also so scared. They gave me like Vicodin afterwards, but they gave me like generic brand Vicodin. And I remember taking it. I was like, sure hope this isn't Vicodin. And I Googled it and I was like, oh no, because I'm so scared of opiates for like no reason.
Well, you can get addicted to them.
You can get addicted to them. I'm currently addicted to, what is it called? Concerta for my ADHD medication. I went off Concerta for like 2 weeks, and it was the bitchiest I've ever been. It was horrible.
I hate learning that I can get addicted to kinda anything. I know. You know? I was trying to figure out the other day why I couldn't wake up. It's because I don't have caffeine.
Yes.
I have ADHD. The caffeine doesn't affect me mentally.
Balances you out.
I don't fucking notice. Right? But I didn't have it, and I was like, why did I sleep for 16 hours Saturday night? That's why. That's the whole reason.
It's an addiction.
Yeah.
I also have an addiction to sertraline, which and I went off sertraline by accident for 2 weeks. I thought my fucking life was ending. I was having like panic attacks like left and right, and I was feeling terrible, and I was like, what is happening to me that I feel so bad? And then I was like, oh, I have to refill my prescription. And then like a week after I went back on, I was perfectly fine. That I was like, the world is ending, I've lost my mind, like it's 2021 again, and I'm fucking losing it. And it's like, yeah, bitch, you were unmedicated, like get your shit together. Like, good lord. Also, that bullshit of like taking medicine takes your spark away. I wrote better shit after I started getting medicated, because my brain works now and I know what I'm doing. I'm not just crazy.
I worked under a poet who was once asked, because he had like pretty famously been drinking and got clean, and somebody asked him like, oh, like, were you worried at all that like getting off drugs and like getting on psychotic medication was going to like ruin you? And he said, all the best shit in the world was written on drugs. He said, but also a lot of artists died on them. You know? So he was like, we have to question like where's the fucking line?
What's the value?
You know?
Is the value art that you'll never be able to continue making, or is the value like getting clean and living the life that you want to continue making art that makes you happy?
I would love to see more multivitamin art. You know, like what do you make when you take a multivitamin?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Not to loop back to Thursday, but I'm going to. Quick side note: when I got my teeth removed, I was wearing a T-shirt that said "I don't want to feel this way forever," which is a Thursday lyric, and I was like, it's ironic because I got my teeth removed. I woke up from this thing, and I was like, fucking. I went. I looked at the nurse and I go, "Do you know the band Thursday?" Mouth full of blood, no teeth. I was like, "Do you know the band Thursday?" And she was like, "Okay, let's sit down." I was like, "They're from New Jersey." But so like. The book Someone Who Is a Me was written after he got clean from heroin, and so it was written in like the 5 years afterwards. And he hadn't put out any music post like sobriety, and like the Thursday stuff was pre-heroin, but like, you know, the other bands that he had were whatever. And it's really interesting to see like the intent behind a lot of it, and the fact that like there's this band No Devotion, and the 2 albums, one was written when he was still on heroin, the other was when he was sober, and the second one is there's so much intent behind everything that he says, and like all of the lyrics, the ones that are cyclical, are on purpose, and it is just a round album, and it connects back to the book, and there are things that you can see like, oh, this was done on purpose. This wasn't like, oh, I happened to be thinking about the same thing and it came together. Like, this is done on purpose. And I think like that's, like you were saying, like most people died while they were on their, making their best work, but it's so, there's no intention behind it. Like if you were just kind of spitting out whatever the fuck you're thinking and it's insane and it's drug fueled, like, I don't know. I think maybe it's because I do love media analysis, but I love stuff that is completely intentional and has all this thought behind it and said like, oh, I wrote this thing here, let me loop back to it here, let me do it here and whatever. And that's just a really cool, like, I try to do that a little bit now, because I've been thinking about it. Like God Bless the Forever War and New York Times are both about different experiences with the current genocide in Gaza, and they're very different perspectives of it, and they were written at different times, but I definitely feel like they represent how I feel about the different consumption of what's going on, because God Bless the Forever War is about like growing up during the wars on terror and that kind of thing, and being like not old enough that I was able to be like part of like protests and stuff in the early 2000s, but not young enough that it didn't have an impact on me, and being like, oh, it's happening again. This is the same thing, and I could do something this time and like be a part of it. And then the New York Times one is like, how much of the media that I consume is just glossing over what's going on. Yeah. And like I said, I bought that issue just because like the band was in it and I was excited, and then I was like, oh my God, like what was going on this same day that I didn't notice because I was off being a person, in the privilege of America. Yeah. And so it's I feel like it's hard to write about something that's not happening to me. And I think that's kind of what's difficult about for me writing poetry, is like all of my poems are about me. Yeah. And they're about like things that happen to me, and even if they're like more general, like even if they talk about like you or whatever, they're like things that I know and things that I've experienced. And so it's hard to write like I don't want to be that kind of person that's like, the genocide makes me feel sad, and it's really hard to like, I don't know how to write about something other than myself, and that is something I definitely want to try and do. But at the same time, how do you write about something you're not experiencing, and how do you write about it in a way that honors the people who are experiencing it, without being like voyeuristic in a way?
I've come to accept that I won't. There are things that I will care about and not be able to write about. And that took a long time, and a lot of seeing people try to... I don't know that you can fully write about something you're not experiencing without some sort of like cannibalization of it. And so that's why I think I've turned so much attention to like, how can I don't need to be alone on stage, right? And I think that's the thing that's helped me out the most, is just going like, okay, I can go grab somebody and go, hey, you do this thing. Yeah. I've become, I think, quite famous for like texting people and being like, hey, I'm thinking about this thing, you go write about it. Like, like, please, like, you make this happen.
Great commission.
Yeah. Like, I want to like talk to you for 45 minutes and then make a poem and then come back to me.
Well, and that's kind of what I feel like, English majors should be. Yeah. I feel like that's kind of like when you talk about like the greats and you talk about T.S. Eliot and Fitzgerald and whatever, that's what they were doing, is they were getting shit-faced and then being like, what you should write about? You should write about the American dream. And they'd be like on it. And that's like, not, people don't do that anymore, is they always think that, I think a lot of art has become selfish, because of capitalism and because of demand and things. And I think that some of the best art is communal, and that it's made by and for a lot of people. And that's kind of one of the reasons I wanted to share, is I was like, art is for everybody and it should be consumed by everybody. And that's also why I wanted to make it have a free version of the book as well, and just be like, I want people to have it. And I also think, like, I'm not going to name names because I don't want to be rude, but I read this poetry book by just an older white man, and I couldn't put my finger on why I didn't like it.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's well written and it sounds good. I was like, why can't I place why I don't like it? And I read a review and somebody was like, you can tell the whole time that it's written by a man. And I was like, oh, that's it. And I realized, like, so when I read something else, like by Matthew Dickman, and he writes about like something I don't know about. I don't know what it means to be like the surviving sibling of someone who committed suicide, what it means to be a divorced father, what it means to be a father when you're like mentally ill and you have suicidal ideation. I don't know those things. And so reading about that was like an experience into something I don't know about. And I think like that's what, like, as much as it is good to write things, I think it's also good to read things by people that aren't common or aren't the same as you. Yeah. And that goes back to the classics thing of like, for so long, everybody is a white man in their text and everything. And so if you read things by people that aren't white cishet men, you realize that life is incredibly complicated and people talk about things in incredibly interesting ways, and that there is no right way to do anything, especially in writing, especially when you write about who you are and what you are. And that's why I've become so attached to like smaller poets and local poets and these other things, and because I want to read about a world that I don't know about from the sort of local perspective that people have, because I love people. I think people are so interesting. And one thing that was so heartbreaking for me about COVID was not being able to just talk to people. Like, I love strangers. I love a moment where, like, for example, like when the eclipse happened, I didn't have any glasses, but this woman I ran into let me borrow hers. Don't know her name, never seen her before, never see her again. That kind of like kindness of strangers is so interesting to me, and the fact that all 7.5 billion people have full-bodied, unique experiences is art in its own to me. And I want to read as much of other people as I can, and so I've been trying on purpose to read books and short stories by people that aren't white and not from America specifically too, like The Dangers of Smoking in Bed. I'm sorry, I can't remember the author's name, but it's a collection of South American short horror stories. Yes. And the difference is so interesting, because it's like the kind of like cryptids and classic, like, you know, urban tales that I just don't know about. And now that is like in my own internal canon, and that is so cool. And that's what I think is really cool about reading. And I think why I've enjoyed reading so much more since I left school, well, since I graduated, and like being able to pick is really helpful. Yeah.
Do you have a recommendation, like a strong recommendation right now for people trying to read?
I think it's a little hard because there's so many different kinds of books, but I have been singing the praises of Someone Who Isn't Me since it came out. I think it's an incredibly well-written book. It's a great view into what addiction does to people, and also what it's like to take responsibility as somebody who's an addict, and both recognizing that you are a victim of a system, but at the same time, like, you made decisions, and maybe the shitty things you did to people were shitty because you were shitty and not because you were a heroin addict. I think The Dangers of Smoking Bed was incredible. I loved that. Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. I'm so sorry.
I don't know how to pronounce it either. I've only ever seen it in print.
That one was incredible, and it shocked me in a couple ways that I was like, oh my God. What else? Matthew Dickman, I love. Husbandry and Mayakovsky's Revolver are really good. What else? I have my books over here. If you want to talk about like sci-fi, Gear Breakers is incredible. Another book that is written by someone who's not a white cishet man. Salvation Day by, I can't remember their name, but it's another sci-fi book about like sacrifice and what it means to be in camaraderie with people that aren't the same as you, and finding like agreement with somebody that you thought was your enemy for the longest time, even though like they may still be considered your enemy by the end of it, but you realize you have common ground.
Have you read Octavia E. Butler yet?
No, but my sister has. She has read the one, oh god, it's got like a blue cover. She keeps telling me to read those ones, and I keep meaning to.
I'm trying to remember. The Kindred is the big one. I don't remember what the other like big Butler book is called.
Yeah, she and Kelsey, my sister-in-law, also keep telling me to read those, and I really want to. I've a little bit put myself on a probation with books right now, because I'm trying to finish the books I've already started.
Oh, fuck that.
And so I'm trying to get through. I'm in like 4 different. I'm reading The Last Hero, which is the 3rd book in the First Sister series, which is an incredible trilogy. I'm reading Foreign Bodies, which is a book about the history of vaccinations and illnesses and plagues. I'm reading Someone Who Isn't Me Again. I'm also reading Hand in Hand with Love, which is a collection of queer poetry. And I'm also reading Howl by whose name I can't remember.
Yeah, I know the book.
He's famous. Why can't I remember his name?
So famous.
What is his name?
I have no idea.
The book is literally in my room. And I can remember who put it together, because his name is William F. Williams, which I thought was funny. Yeah. But I can't remember who wrote the actual poems.
I never know.
I have no idea. But I want to finish those because I need to stop starting and rereading books. But I do want to read those because I love sci-fi and I love short stories.
See, I love DNFing. It's my favorite thing.
No, I feel bad because I get unless it's like atrocious and it's something I genuinely do not like, I feel bad because I'm like, well, I'm invested in it. I want to know what's going on and I want to finish it. I'm very much a completionist. There are very few books that I have DNF'd on purpose. Like there are books that I just haven't finished. There are very few books that I was like, good Lord, and then stopped reading them. I also rent a lot of my books where I will use like Libby and stuff. And so like it's so much easier to rent like a million books because I'm always just like, that looks cool, and I rent it. And then if it sucks, I'm like, oh well, it was free. And that's also really good with poetry too, because the problem is like a lot of poetry like is not super physically accessible because they're not really in bookstores, and the ones that are in bookstores tend to be the very big market ones. And so I like to get them from libraries and stuff, and that has been very nice.
Have you been to Dove and Hudson yet?
Yes, I love Dove and Hudson.
Yes, Dove and Hudson is the best. That's my random local shout out.
It's great. I love Dove and Hudson. It's such a fun little shop. I ended up having like a very long conversation with somebody about the 9 Inch Nails music video for Closer.
Classic Dove and Hudson moment.
I was like, this is great. We're going to talk about Closer because it's insane. And Trent Reznor is crazy. I admire him though.
Do you want to plug anything at the end of this? Because I think we've hit our elongated indie outro. Yeah,
we have 5 minutes.
We have 5 whole minutes.
I think 5 whole minutes. I could talk about so many things in 5 whole minutes. I think the only things I have to plug is I've my book. I don't want to look at the camera. I feel weird looking at the camera.
I know, right? Hi, camera.
Hi. My book is called 2 Years Under My Teeth. I quote unquote published it completely independently with help from my dad, who got them printed for me, and the cover was edited and put together by Catherine O'Brien, and she did the cover and the back, and I took the picture myself. I am online at Miss Shelby Jane with 2 Y's on Instagram, and that's where I post my life and sometimes poetry, and this is available for download for free on Gumroad, and it is available also for physical purchase on Gumroad and also in Paper Moon here in Troy.
Yes. Shout out to Paper Moon.
Love Paper Moon. They're the best.
The like incubator.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's I went in there and I was like, do you have any local poets? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, I'm one.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, please take this.
It's
And then this is one that I wrote for Paper Moon. It's called New Moon Child. I'm a new moon child. I'm always present, always tugging at the edges of the rolling sea. But my brilliance, the thing that creates my cycles and makes me worth seeing, is only a reflection cut into slivers, by that which I circle. The only time in which I light up the dark is when I'm harnessing the light of someone bigger, brighter. I have no light of my own, no beacon to guide those lost in the dark. I'm a new moon child. I'm lost to the dark until I am blessed by someone else's light. No, thank you.
Love that.
This one's called Sirens. Whenever I see an ambulance go by, sirens wailing, lights flashing, I wonder if it's my body inside, if it's me from another time. This time, my body gone to implosion. I wonder if I am driving or if I gave in to the urges that tug strings around my wrists and elbows. If this is another memory of whatever I see an ambulance go by.